welcome to Bubbles and Breakdowns, a place where we dive into the good, the bad, and the bubbly. This is Ashley.
And this is Katrina.
And today we're going to be covering a topic that is a journey.
Ooh, baby. I am excited for this one.
Me too, but also sweating thinking of it. We're going to be talking about weight.
Bump, bump, bum. In some cases, da-da-da-da, but mostly bump, bump, bum.
And I don't even know where to begin because there's so much to cover. But as we were talking about this topic, we realized this is going to be a two-parter.
Yes, it's so heavy that it needs two parts.
Oh, but So let's talk about what we're going to be talking about, right? So we all have felt that pressure to be a certain size. And many of us tie our self-worth, I know I do, directly to that number on the scale. In this episode, we're going to get personal, sharing the moments from childhood to today that really shaped how we think about food, exercise, and our bodies. We're going to open up about the real challenges of maintaining a healthy weight after having kids, as we get older, and when life just gets stressful. We're going to explore what truly motivates us and what holds us back, and we'll offer practical ways, we hope practical, to practice radical self-love through it all.
Isn't that the goal? Just to be kind to ourselves through this journey?
Mm-hmm.
I know that I struggle with that. So I'm just grateful for a space to unpack this. And I hope that as you're listening, if you see parts of yourself in here, just really know you're not alone. Weight management, our weight, it's just a hard topic. It's hard for us, particularly as women. And we're just looking forward to unpacking it and giving you a safe space that you can feel seen. And as we were preparing, right, we were like, how do we talk about this? Because it is so loaded. And I said heavy, I mean it. It's a heavy topic. It's emotional. It's not just physical. And so it all starts when we're kids.
Mm-hmm.
It all starts when we're little people, and how we start to interact with food, and how we start to interact with our bodies, and how maybe they're perceived by other people. So to kind of kick us off, we're going to go way back to the world of little Ashley and little Katrina finding our way and feeding ourselves and maybe, not exercising.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can take a look down your memory lane and
Perfect.
say, how was it as a kid?
Let me set the scene. Obviously, I'm an Ashley. That means I was born in the 80s.
100%.
So here we go. Little baby Ashley of the 80s. Like I mentioned on a previous episode, divorced parents, right? So I think I'm just speaking from experience. In my experience, not the most structured, right? Yeah. My mom was a nurse, was working long hours. My dad, a CPA, working long hours too. So the dinner table and meals kind of were an afterthought, right? We were fed, we were happy, but it was more, here's a meal, eat in front of the TV, picked up McDonald's, right? Whatever. Even as a kid, I craved to just sit down together and have dinner at the dinner table.
Yeah, I get it.
Like it was just one of those things. I'd go to my friend's house. We'd have dinner together. They'd talk about their day. They did the roses and thorns or whatever, right? Like what was beautiful, what was a little prickly, and just talking, right? And not being just focused on food or a TV show in the background. As a young kid, I craved that. So much so that, kind of funny story, my friend was redoing her kitchen. And they built this beautiful island. And we were talking, she's like, I don't even know if I need a kitchen table. Like, this is where everyone will sit and congregate and give us more space. And I just said, yes, you do.
Mm-hmm.
Because that, in my mind, those meals happened at that table.
Yeah.
Right. And now I think that's more just like a symbol of what I viewed was that togetherness and those conversations, and really where I think my relationship with food started.
Oh, wow. And now you have that kitchen table.
I do.
And I have a chance to cultivate
my
that.
husband laughs at me because we recently moved and I was like, oh, we've got a great space for a kitchen table. And he's like, Ashley, I don't think we should put it there. And I'm like, oh, we are, and that's the most sat at table in our
Get
house
out of the way of my dreams.
I know.
I'm going for it.
Boom, here I come. But no, I think, again, it just, that spoke to me, even as a kid, and I think based on how I grew up, I overate. We weren't being mindful of what we were putting in our bodies because it wasn't a designated time and place to think about that, right? Or we didn't even talk about that either. It was rushed. It was this to that. Even though our lives are like that too, right
Oh,
now,
I
like
know.
it's like get a snack, applesauce pouch, whatever. But I think having that time to talk and go forward, I think that
Hmm.
just really shaped me, and I started gaining weight early as a young kid. I remember
Yeah.
too, we had this project in fourth grade where everyone had got a huge like piece of paper and you got to outline your body. So it was kind of like all about me and like stats and
Hmm.
stuff. So it's like, oh, this is fun. You put like, I think we did like pictures of our families around us, but also everyone had to step on a scale.
Wow, as a 10-year-old girl.
I was in tears,
Mm.
just being like, everyone's going to know my weight. And it was like probably more than the boys. And I think
Mm.
it started there.
Hurtful. An
Hurtful.
unintended consequence of an art project.
Absolutely. And I don't know. It really, it stuck with me. It
Totally.
really stuck with me.
Mm.
So yeah, I'd love to hear too, you growing up. I think the thing I like about us too is we have similarities, we have differences, and they shape who we are. So I'd love to hear yours too.
Yeah. Um, Round faced little Katrina, bopping around. I loved the snacks, all that good stuff. But where I was a little different is my mom was so good about creating that dinner table experience. She spent a lot of time preparing healthy, fresh meals for us. And we really did have that, TV dinner, not TV dinner space. We had the true kitchen table, and we would, talk a little bit. As we got older, though, we did have this tiny little TV in the corner where, by the way, Wheel of Fortune was
Oh,
always played.
give me Vanna.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, like, this is so weird. Why are we watching this show? But my parents really liked it. But we had the bread and the butter. We had the rounded out kind of balanced meal back when the pyramid was maybe flipped upside down and the grains were the most important thing. So we had a lot of grains. But she was also an excellent cook, which, sorry, Mom, it maybe made me more hungry because I wanted to keep eating the chicken Alfredo. Or I wanted to keep eating the stir fry. And I just like really liked food is my first memory. And then the other one is really about, my brother was stick thin and he never put on weight. Like he could, I always tell people as I talk about my brother and how different we were as kids. Now he's rather large. And I'm like, haha, payback. But back then he could sit down with a box of cereal and a gallon of milk and he drank milk like it was water. And he would like just eat the cereal. He'd just keep filling his bowl. And I was never, allowed to do that. And then he could just pound an entire sleeve of Oreo cookies. And, my mom would be like, you can have four. And I'm like, but Brad's eating like this entire sleeve. He had this metabolism that was like an incinerator. And I had this metabolism that was like a turtle on a bicycle, just barely.
First of all, great image to see.
Barely, using my food as energy. And it was just like packing it on for me. And so early, my first memory of like why, maybe I think of the way that I do about my weight and my body was that my mom put me on a little diet when I was 5 years old. She noticed, hey, my nickname is Katie. I noticed Katie was gaining weight more than her brother was. And she would give me the carrots and the peanut butter or the celery, ants in the log. By the way, ants in the log, nice try, parents. Not going for it back then.
Those ants suck.
Yeah, I picked the ants off. I'd lick the peanut butter out and I'd leave the celery. I'm like, any more peanut butter? But yeah, that kind of shaped, my self-perception of saying, I think the story that got created, the narrative that got created is I can't eat food like other people. And as I say that now, I'm like, oh, what a story. And it was so not what my mom intended. But she also was a little bit rounder growing up, and she would have nicknames that she was called. And I think it was upsetting to her. And she was really trying to protect me. It was completely out of love, of wanting me to have a different experience. And she thought, oh gosh, if I can just get her to eat healthy, maybe she can avoid the same kind of bullying or the same kind of deprecation that maybe she felt. But yeah, that was like, and I always knew that I was the heavier ones. I hung out with like the cheerleaders and like, they were so thin and cute. And I remember in fifth grade, I bought a bikini and I was like 111 pounds in fifth grade. And I was like, I'm going to wear it, but I am terrified. And I wore it. And I remember just like, I was tired from sucking my stomach in all day because I wanted so badly to look like they did. And I wasn't going to look like they did. And even when I look at pictures, I'm like, oh, you weren't that chubby, sweetie pie. Why were you so upset?
I know. Let me give you a hug. I feel like I have a
Yeah.
similar story of just the clothes, right? Because I feel like also
Yes.
growing up, like you want what the other people have, or you're like, it's just what it is, right? I remember limited to.
Oh, yes.
Can we?
Expensive. My mom would not buy it. She'd make me save my money for it.
Oh, yeah. It was like a special outfit,
Mhm.
right? I remember so clearly. So I went to a Catholic school. So, like, I don't even remember what they called them, like non-uniform days, I guess we'll call them. All the stops came out because you're like, I don't have this jumper anymore. I don't need this white blouse. Like,
Mhm.
let's do this. And everyone, I can remember like the detail on these pants. They were, I don't know if they're bell bottoms or like wide flare legs,
So
right?
cute.
Probably oversized because that was what it was. The the belt loops were like crisscrosses, so it's like, oh, we're getting
Oh,
some
so
style.
cool.
And then there were two zip pockets in the
Mhm.
front with like little balls with like metal clasps or something, like metal.
Mhm.
What are we calling them? Yeah, just like the
Mhm.
zipper,
Mhm.
and beautiful zippers either way. And so we went there. I tried them on. I got the largest size and they barely buttoned.
I know this feeling.
And you're like, I just want to fit in with everyone and I want the jeans they have. And I'm a size 16. I think that was the biggest in girls. And I got them, I wore them. I had a stomach ache, right? From like, they were
Oh.
like too tight. But, that was the one time, right? You're just like, I want to be like everybody else.
And then you're like kicked back into this little lonely, chubby girl space. And doesn't it just hurt your soul when you think about that as a
Does.
little kid? And when you're talking about this, gosh, we have such a great opportunity both having young girls to set the stage differently for them and to avoid maybe some of the unintended consequences
Mhm.
of whether it's skipping our meals at the dinner table or it's putting a child on a diet or talking negatively about food that yeah, we're not going to get it right. We're not going to get it right all the time. We
No.
still are going to have those snack plate dinners like every other person out there. By the way, just had one last night or Saturday or whatever it was. We had a wild weekend here to reflect on. Yeah, it was Saturday. And I mean, you just make do with what you have, but I think the goal is to do things just a little bit better as we generationally learn,
Mhm.
right? And these things can help us be better mommies.
Totally. And I think another thing too is be aware and talk about those societal pressures, right?
Big topic.
I mean, from when we were those babies of the 80s, right? Like things have changed a little bit here. And, even looking at Barbies,
Mm-hmm.
we've got Barbies with curves.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, so many different things that represent different body types than I think that we had growing up.
Yeah, I walk into the Target now and I see like a size 12 lady mannequin and I'm like, wow, the society is catching up with reflecting real life bodies rather than these bodies that may be feeling very unattainable to some because I'll just say even at my thinnest and healthiest, I'm not going to look like that Barbie from the times of when I grew up, right? And, you think about all the things that we ingested without even knowing it, all the subconscious imagery that was supplanted in our minds. I think about all the magazines. I'm not even going to get the names right, but like the Teen Girl magazines back in the day, 17 magazine back in the day,
Oh,
and just how pretty and thin and perfect everybody was. And
it was
that
like
was
the cast of Seventh Heaven.
oh my gosh, yes. They were all so perfect. And whatever that was for you all listening is like, who were those people that stick out in your mind of being
Mhm.
just what you wanted to look like or that you held up so high regard. And, when you don't look like that, you're without knowing, I think as children, we're putting judgment on ourselves.
Mhm. I wonder too, I know we just talked about it's society today is being more inclusive and representative, but looking at Instagram
Mm-hmm.
filters, do we
Oh,
think it's this whole nother level of maybe worse, right? Like, yeah, we got the magazines, and I feel like it's 90s airbrush. So maybe it's like taking some, you know what I mean? But looking now,
Like the duck lips.
yes, duck lips. We've got, but also just like all the filters where you can like remove a stomach or remove
Oh, yeah.
some arm jiggle.
I've never done that, but like I kind of think I should
mean,
just
I
to be
think we
like,
should
oh,
too, right?
Yeah.
But but I think it's like I'm just reflecting on that now. Like we think it's gotten better, but has it?
No, right?
Or is
But
it even more critical?
I think that's so interesting. So there's like this movement out there that's maybe called the thick girl movement, where we're seeing some of those things reflected, where you see a lot of body positivity for women in particular who are carrying excess weight, right? Which is all about this radical self-love concept and loving your body and being proud of who you are, not holding back or putting on the outfits that maybe you wouldn't otherwise, which I think has so much beauty and positivity. But as we'll talk in the next episode, that weight management is important for our long-term health. And so there's kind of like this teeter-totter in my mind of, yes, you have to love yourself. You need to appreciate where you are and still wear the outfits and feel good in your body. But we also have an opportunity to be healthy. Mm-hmm. But again, in society, we're shifting in that way. And then I also think about what you just said about the filters, right? If I pull those filters up with my daughter sitting next to me and she has said to me like, you look so pretty. And then she'll go, ooh, I look pretty. I go, every time I say, you look pretty without that filter, honey. You're so beautiful without it. Or she'll want to run and put on makeup. And I'm like, that's fun. And it does look nice, but you look so good without makeup too. Mm-hmm. And, even my son, if I put on makeup, which by the way, doesn't happen often, like Ashley's sitting across from me right now with mascara on. I'm like, when did you put mascara on? Because that's like, no.
True confessions time?
Was it from yesterday?
It's from yesterday.
Oh, good. I don't feel so bad.
Let's spill the beans. This face has not been washed in a day. So
even better. And now I'm like just proud that I washed my face. But but the point of all that is to say, when I do put makeup on, my son, even last week, he goes, oh, I love your makeup, mommy. And he's looking at me like I'm this beautiful, person. And it's so crazy because we as people, we are drawn to beauty. We're drawn to beauty. In fact, in our society, there's this whole unintended programmatic thing where we think beauty is good. And fat is bad. And ugly is bad. And by the way, I've always said this, Matt, to my husband, you better love me a lot. Because there ain't nothing but getting old and ugly over here, okay? Like, we all are going to get the saggy boobs. We're all going to get the wrinkles. We're going to get the double chins. We're going to get the gray hairs growing out of our eyebrows. But right now in society, beauty is still seen as good. And that's, I don't see that changing in our lifetimes.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think we need to celebrate everybody, though.
Yeah.
Right?
And
to your point, too, I say the same thing to my daughter. I say, we went through the dance recital. Mm-hmm. So we got to wear mascara. Mm. And she's like, Mom, can I wear this every day? Mm-hmm. I said, absolutely not. You're 4, And, but I tell the same thing. I was like, you look beautiful without it. Mm-hmm. And I think instilling those messages and just kind of, beauty is only skin deep, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen that. I think all of us in this time of life of just some of the most beautiful people can be the most ugly people. Yeah. But same ugly people can also be ugly people. So I think, and, I don't think there's truly any ugly people out there. Everyone is amazing. But it's just one of those things that you want them to have these values of not only beauty and, associating it with like a person.
Yeah.
And
like who you are.
Yes. Right. And what they care about and their morals. And I think when you're touching on that thick girl movement, I think it's the same thing. Right. And getting back to that a little bit more, just being healthy. I think that's the biggest thing. Thing. I have a warped childhood view of food. And, that's something that I will attest to. I'm trying to move past that. I'm trying to teach the right things. But also, we're getting old.
What do you mean?
In the best
Don't be
way.
rude.
In the best way. We're midlife crisising it. Maybe not a crisis. We're midlife podcasting it.
Yes, and I call it a midlife assessment.
Oh, let's assess.
I don't want to be in a crisis. And by the way, there's real crises out there. This is not true. One of them, right?
No, but
I know.
I don't know about you, but I feel different.
Oh my gosh.
I am on the eve of my 40th year, and I feel it in my knees. I have like no hair.
Joints are a little creaky.
Oh, it's just... I really can't believe it. And like I've mentioned, I've always been a little heavier, but this is when I'm really starting to feel it. I
Mm-hmm.
never felt like my weight held me back except for like emotionally, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm embarrassed to wear this, or I never wear shorts. Like what are shorts? And now I'm like, "Oh, but I feel that." And I don't know if that's also just age,
Oh, a lot
in
of it.
general, but it's like I better take those vitamins.
Hmm.
Many and I feel so much better. I feel like every time I go on Instagram, it's like, how many grams of protein can you eat in a day?
Hmm.
300? First of all, is that even healthy for you? But when I ditch the sugars
Oh, don't
and
you
I
feel so much
eat
better?
whole, real foods, I'm not snacky. I feel more focused.
And you're nicer, right?
I mean,
I
you
am.
tell me.
I don't know. What'd you have this morning?
I
I'm just
mean,
kidding.
you don't want to know. But it's one of those things that like it's true, but I think we're starting to realize that now. But we're also
Hmm.
probably the busiest we've ever been.
Yes.
So I'd love to know, like, how do you handle stressors with eating, and where do we
I'm taking a
begin?
deep breath, and I can definitely tell you how I've not handled it. Maybe
Okay.
maybe this episode is like about how we don't handle this well
Love
and how
it.
it shaped us. But then maybe the next episode, tune in, guys, because we'll talk about things that have worked really well for us. I'll tell you this: this is the season of my life. Having two children, one on the beginning of COVID and one on the end of COVID. And when I say that, it's never really over, but it's the time when it was absolute bonkersaurus rex in the United States. And then, um, learning how to manage life with two kids and not having a huge support system, where it was really on my husband and I to do all that has been tremendously difficult on maintaining a healthy weight for me. I left the hospital with my son, and 20 days after that, I was, starting to put weight on. Typically, when you have children, spoiler alert, you're supposed to lose weight, okay? Just in case, like, too long didn't read, for people who don't know what that's like, is that you're supposed to lose weight after you have a baby. And I put on 16 pounds after I had my son. And yes, I was nursing, and when you're nursing, you are just ravenous. And then
Ravenous.
there are some women out there though that go, "Oh, breastfeeding helped me lose weight, and I was lower than I was before I got pregnant." I'm like, "Don't be rude. Don't be rude. That was not my experience." And by the way, no, I really am like, "Hey, that's awesome." But I was so hungry all the time, and the thing about nursing for me is, unfortunately, I think it gave me permission to eat more than I needed, because I was like, if I don't eat enough, I'm not going to have enough calories, produce enough milk,
And
and
feeding my like you're
I'm
still
feeding my baby.
eating for two.
Yes.
Right?
Well, I kind of, maybe I rationalized it that way, right? And so that put me into this, like, heavier than ever weight category for myself. And during this time too, in midlife, I went to my primary, and he slapped a quantification of my weight on my chart that said class 1 obesity due to excess calorie consumption. And we'll talk more in the next episode of what that did for me psychologically, because at first it hurt, but then it really turned into fuel in the best way possible. And just being confronted with the reality of where we are, and then being like, what are you going to do about it? And getting to a place finally where I can manage this household with confidence and not as much stress, and not have the stress eating happen as much, has been a really important shift for me. But those early years, Ashley, have been one of the hardest times in my life to manage my health and my weight. And
Oh, yeah.
you're still in it. Like, your
Yeah.
son is younger than mine, so I'd love to hear where you are, maybe
Yeah.
even currently, and like how you've been feeling midlife.
Yeah, I think hearing you talk about the doctor like that, right? I had a similar experience where it's like doctors are supposed to help you and make you feel good, right?
Mhm.
I mean, but also like they're realistic, which I know that too, right? So when I had both of my children, I gained at least 50 pounds with both. I think with my second, I gained more than that. But I remember the doctor coming in and saying, "Oh, you don't have gestational diabetes?" And I said,
Gee, thanks.
"Thanks, woman. I don't. I know I'm overweight, but I don't have it." So I think that was the first time I was like, I am being I think in my mind, I was like, oh, she just wants me to be healthy. But now that I'm looking at it, I was like, was it kind of a dig or am I just sensitive? And I think I've grown up sensitive. But I think now I'm looking at it in the light of her job is to make sure I have a healthy baby, right? So like that's what I need to do. And I think coming into midlife, I'm really starting to change the way I think of just like not to just be skinny. I want to be healthy.
Yeah.
I want to like sit on the floor and play Legos and I want to run. I want to try to do a cartwheel again. Like things.
Oh my gosh, I just did. Do you know what happened? Real quick sidebar. My daughter goes to me, "Can you do a cartwheel, Mom?" Because she's doing them in gymnastics. And I was like, oh, this sounds like a tall order. And then my inner like ego was like, absolutely. And I think that's what I said. And I did one. And yes, I did it. It probably wasn't the prettiest cartwheel and maybe my hip hurt after. But yeah.
Pulled a few muscles.
I know. And then even more so, that was another instance where I was like, ooh, this is really important.
Really important.
Getting your weight to a healthy, place, as well as your mobility and all of that. Like our bodies in the years of the 40s particularly is just begging for us to pay attention. So this midlife has been a transformative time frame for us that I think both of us have said has really altered the way we're perceiving it's not about our self-worth anymore. Okay. What we talked about in the beginning was it gets tangled up in our self-worth. And wow, it can be so self-deprecating and we are not practicing self-love in many ways. But now, as we shift to looking for future, it is a call to action for me where I have to do this to, yes, of course, be there for my kids, feel good in my body, but also ensure that I have the best experience in my life as possible.
Totally.
And the fact that we have the power to do that is so amazing.
And I think that's really important to realize is you do own that power.
You do.
You are the person. No one has the reins of your life. It's you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And trust me, I've been in those mental funks where I'm like, ugh, what am I getting for lunch? All we have is pizza. No, you have a salad kit.
Yeah.
No, you've got tuna. Like
tuna and crackers.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I think coming out of that, especially like hormones, especially at our age, and the perimenopause of it all. And I feel like we keep saying of it all, but it's like everything is so encompassing and those stressors lead you, at least to me, which we'll probably talk about more next time, this emotional eating, right? And how do you check that at the door? And it's just, I don't know. It's a lot.
It's a lot. But I think if nothing else for this first part of this, discussion about weight, I hope we've given you a lens into our personal experience. Maybe some of it touched home with you. Maybe you're that person who has been thin your entire life with maybe little effort. And wow, I want to know what that feels like. We don't have one of you here to reflect that, but I'm sure there's been other things where people have commented on your weight as a thin person and said, you're so tiny. And I'm sure there's other things that go with that, other feelings. And overall, I think as we look back is just that comments about weight, comments about our bodies, how we were treated, how we were looking at food and eating really have created different hurdles for us to jump over. And we're continuing to find out how to jump those hurdles. And so next episode, tune in. We're going to talk more about how we manage it all.
Yeah, all of it. So we're going to talk about, why is it important to manage your weight, ways to lose, ways to maintain, and then the most important thing I think is just keeping it all in check.
Yeah.
I think as women, we are so hard on ourselves. We are conditioned that way to be perfect, to do it all, but like we're humans. I keep seeing this around Instagram and around social media around, this is the one childhood that your kids will get. But I'm just a girl who's 39. I am 39 for the first time in my life. I'm trying to figure it out too.
Yep.
Right? So just remember, you yourself are a person and a woman who's doing the best you can to live your best life and be healthy. And I'm excited to talk about that next week.
I love it. Bring your imperfectness and check in with us next week. And for now, I think just remember, behind every breakdown
Is a glass of bubbles.
cheers, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.